Honcho 2-3, I read you.
The enemy around our...
This is Vader 05. Are you happy we are friendly visual?
Around our position. Have turned out the lights.
I don't see anything on the ground.
Hello, this is Vader 05. Are you happy we are visual on friendlies?
Vader 05 is Honcho 2-3. I'm overhead your position and I cannot tell the friendly positions.
Fast air. We need your help, okay? What you can use ask for us to do? Do you want us to put a strobe on? Everything around us within 300 meters, totally and utterly destroyed. We are surrounded. They have taken all lights out.
Everybody's looking for something.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Ned Lynch, United States Air Force. The purpose of this video is to go over a mission that I flew in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I don't know about you, but when you hear the voice of those men, it raises my blood pressure, even today, to watch my own video. I still critique myself to this day of how I did on that mission.
Honcho 2-3, check. Vader Honcho 2-3, we're 8 miles out from those coordinates.
Vader 5, roger that. It's spoon race. We have got them totally around us within 300 meters. Strobe on when you're in location.
Okay, clear trail to go down lower.
Speed. Over.
Honcho 2-3, we're overhead above the weather. Descending down at this time.
Scout hunting, period dot. And to support the special ops troops on the ground who were operating, doing the same mission that we were. On the night of 30 March 2003, we were flying in some of the worst haze, dust, and weather that I've ever flown in my entire life. At night we use night vision goggles. Night vision goggles require some type of light on the ground, in the air, to illuminate the ground, being the moon, the stars, cultural lighting, flares, whatever it may be. We need some kind of light to illuminate the ground so that we can see it. That night we had zero illumination. We had no moon, we had no stars, we had solid weather from about 9 to 10,000 feet, broken all the way up to well into the 20s. So I had to start the descent down through the weather. I put my wingman back into trail. At night, trying to follow around your flight lead is a difficult thing in good weather with night vision goggles. I'm running with covert lighting where no one on the ground can see my lights in the airplane. The flashing light on the back of my tail and the position lights on the wings. My wingman flew about a mile behind me and used his radar to keep track of me. He used a saddle, which is a data linking system that we have to be able to see where we are and keep track of each other. He used saddle and radar and his night vision goggles to try to maintain a good position behind me to one, descend down through the weather, and then two, once we got below the weather, his job is to look for threats and to keep track of where I am and make sure I don't hit the ground. That is his sole purpose in life. And to back me up on everything else. And we work as a team. And I had the best wingman that I thought I could have for this situation.
From the north, can you confirm? Fast there. The enemy now is around us. They have turned out all the lights. Still moving
left-hand turn.
over. Fast there. Do you read me?
Honcho 2-3, I read you.
The enemy around our...
This is Vader 05, are you happy you have friendly's visual?
Around our position, have turned out the lights.
2-3, I'm overhead your position and I cannot tell the friendly positions.
Fast air. We need your help, okay? What can you ask for us to do? Do you want us to put a strobe on? Everything around us within 300 meters, totally and utterly destroyed. We are surrounded. They have taken all lights out.
I copy you. I will need a strobe to see your...
I would say that was the toughest mission I've ever flown in my entire life. Because of the weather, the haze, the dust, the troops in dire straits. It's in the middle of the night. There's no night vision illumination. There's troops on the ground who I think are probably going to die. So you get that compounding your psychology of warfare. We had just gotten back the day prior from an 8-hour mission over Iraq, where I diverted down to Saudi Arabia, and then ended up flying another 6-hour mission the next day after sleeping on a cot and eating MREs. So fatigue was a factor. I flew 16 missions in Operation Iraqi Freedom in the first 21 days, and I had 8 days straight flying before I had 1 day off. And I tell you, flying 6 hours in an F-16 at night is not an easy task. And to do it day after day after day, it just wears you down. And then when you get back, you're trying to sleep in your little cubicle room in a trailer with earplugs and taking sleeping pills trying to sleep. So I was very fatigued. And now this is the most intense mission I've ever flown in my life. And I got to deal with a lot more than I'm used to, plus I'm physically, mentally drained.
Bomb to the offset from your position or strafe. What would you like me to do?
Drop the bomb. I'll bring you on after that, over.
Okay, I'm turning back in, and what I need you to do, and I'll give you a countdown when to turn to strobe, and I will be running in from the southwest actually, and you can tell me either left or right of your position and how far.
Okay, right. I've got strobe on now. I am at our position.
About 10,000 feet and do a diving delivery of no more than about 10 degrees nose low, and try to find their IR strobe on the ground using my night vision goggles, and then bomb left or right of where I saw their strobe. And every time that I would roll in, I would say, turn your strobe on, turn your strobe on. And I know they were turning their strobe on, but because of the haze and the weather, I didn't see anything. My wingman is back here in a fighting wing position, which is offset like this as we're going downhill. And he's cross-checking my altitude and calling check altitude. Well, I had all my lights turned down in the cockpit. I couldn't even see my altimeter. And I had the heads-up display, which you're seeing on the TV screen. I had it turned down very low also, because I wanted to have no other lights interfering with seeing these guys. And because of that, I couldn't see my altimeter. So my wingman did a great job backing me up.
Altitude.
Okay, turn your strobe on now. Strobe on now.
Our strobe is on for our position.
Altitude.
I'm not seeing anything. Turn it on.
Transmitting on guard.
You got a sprint in progress on guard. Turn your strobe on.
Altitude.
Check
Altitude.
Roping.
Through this haze and dust at about 500 knots, a little over 500 knots, which is close to 600 miles an hour. So it's not a whole lot of time to for the bombing pass. It's a very short amount of time that I have there, and I'm not seeing anything. What you see there in the heads-up display, on the left side is the airspeed, on the right side is the altitude, and the line down through the middle of the heads-up display is my steering. You will see a small box, square box. That is where their position is. That's what the coordinates were that they gave me. I looked in my targeting pod, which is IR picture, but I couldn't see anything through the IR picture that I had because of all the haze and dust and smoke and whatever else is down there. So I am just intently looking through the heads-up display. I'm looking around that box, either side of it, and I have everything turned down very low and making it very dim so I can try to pick up this little strobe, which is like a flashlight going through a discotheque with all the lights out. So very difficult to find these guys, and I didn't find them. Every time I get right over their position and I'd pull off and I'd climb up and I'd roll over and I'd look down at the ground and I'd pick up this little flashlight for just a second, which is the IR strobe shining through this haze and dust. And on one pass, my wingman, who's back here a good mile and who's offset from me, he's able to pick it up. So I'm coming off the pass, I pick up the IR strobe. I have no way I can roll in, it's right underneath me, but he's offset with enough lateral and vertical maneuvering turning room that he can roll in and do a dive bomb pass. So I come off my my attack, which I aborted, and head south because I knew I would deconflict with him, and he rolls in and drops one bomb. And then we continued trying to work with these guys, and we put flares out. Wolfman put out flares on his bombing attack. But the combination of noise, our attacks, even though they were aborted, and the one bomb we got off, which was a unguided, laser-guided bomb, and we both put out flares, helped change the situation on the ground and enable these guys to get on foot and depart the area far enough away from the enemy to where a combat rescue the next day or during that night was able to save these guys.
Altitude. Altitude.
Are you still seeing it? Affirm. Copy. You're clear to roll in, and I'll head south.
Vader, Oscar 2-4, we're the enemy, and according to your strobe. One bomb away, we're covering.
Shaft. Flare.
Roger, visual your chair.
That's my chair. From bomb impact, where do you need?
Close calls in an F-16. I am the definition of someone who has 9 lives. I've had many near misses. Probably just about every F-16 pilot who has lived to tell about it has had many close calls. That's just part of the business. And just like last year, September 11th of '02, my good friend Topper has to eject out of an airplane, and I get to see the plane explode and hit the ground, and I think he's dead. So those are just some of the things, experiences that you have to deal with. It's not all fun and games all the time. It's not just an adrenaline rush with afterburner coming out the back end, flames. It's a lot of excitement. It's a lot of fun, but it's also very demanding. So that night was very demanding and required every bit of brain bites that I had. And like I said, I was very fatigued. And the most I've ever been scared was in on this flight and not being shot at, but I got myself into an unusual attitude. I was about 45 degrees nose high, and I have to do this recovery, just a normal instrument recovery. And as soon as I complete this recovery, I get this missile launch warning, and I'm slow at this point, and I'm putting out flares, and the flares are so bright they wash out my night vision goggles, so now I'm blinded. And I'm in an unusual attitude, blinded. Not where you want it. Come on, come on. Come on, come on.
Anyone who is following us in the same direction.
So Slayer 5-5 when able.
Okay. Tried to slew my pod into their area.
Slayer is calling you on guard. You want me to talk to him?
Yes, please.
Slayer, this is Honcho 2-4, go.
Yes, sir.
I got a missile launch.
Shaft flare.
Wondering if we're cleared in at base +2. Whatever you...
Shaft flare.
Cleared. Come in at 240. You got F-16s.
I truly believe that God was there that night with us, and I truly believe that every prayer said for us while we were flying in this war were answered that night when I was Honcho 2-3. And I guarantee you that I wouldn't be sitting here in front of this video camera if it hadn't been for Christ, because He saved me years ago, for one, and two, that night He brought me back home, and that's all that matters. Medals don't matter. They're all cool and everyone gets excited and they like to put it in the paper. But coming home and having your family love you and pray for you is the most important thing in life. Ditch in World War I, and I haven't seen guts all over my hands. But I've heard the sounds of war, and I've seen things explode on the ground. I've seen the 4th of July, and when I hear the Star Spangled Banner, our national anthem, at a ball game, I stand at attention. And it hurts to see all the people not doing that. Even in my own hometown. So, next time you hear the Star Spangled Banner, put your hand on your heart, stand at attention. Because a lot of people died out there. And I'm just glad I'm not one of them that's dead now and I can come back and talk about it. So, thanks for your support, thanks for praying, and thanks for looking after my family while I was gone. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much.